Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you're at. My name is Andrea Scheidley. I'm the AVP of DI Sales. I want to thank you all for joining us today for our October Best Practices Forum, which is with our great partner, Chuck Glover. He's out of Ohio, and we're going to be talking today about how Chuck brings up the DI conversation during open enrollment period to kind of maximize those opportunities of being in front of clients and helping to grow his business. So one thing that we've learned over the last year, especially with some surveys that we do, is that agents like to hear from other agents. So this is our 5th Best Practices Forum so far for 2022. And honestly, we've had such great feedback and great results from these sessions. So I really hope that you take a lot away from today as well, and just think of different ways that you can incorporate the DI conversation into your practice, whether that be health insurance or P&C or life insurance, whatever that is, taking advantage of those opportunities when you're with your clients to talk about disability income and opening up the door there. So Chuck, I'm going to go ahead and let you tell us a little bit about your business, how long you've been in practice, what your primary focus is, if there's anything you want to add about your clientele. Just kind of giving that feedback would be great so everyone can kind of learn a little bit there.
Okay, I first got into the insurance business all the way back in 1992, and I think I first contracted with Illinois Mutual in 1994 and have been doing business with them ever since. My primary market actually is agriculture. I started working mostly with dairy farmers, but as that market has shrank quite a bit over the last 30 years. So I've expanded into all other kinds of agriculture. I've got chicken farmers, hog farmers, beef farmers, wheat farmers, and then anybody else that a farmer might refer me to. Probably 50% of my business is in the health insurance business. The remaining 50% is disability, life insurance, and annuities. A large portion of my time is spent helping farmers figure out how they can transition their operations to the next generation without offending some of their kids who are not working in the operation, and that's where life insurance comes in. But I've found over the years that if you pull onto a farm and start talking about life insurance, you're likely to get a pitchfork in the backside. Whereas if you ask them, are they paying too much for health insurance, they invite you in for a pint of coffee. So that's usually
I like that door opener there. I think the biggest thing there is just learning or knowing your clients, right? Knowing the person that you're talking to and what's going to connect with them. I'm glad that you
prospect in that market too, because you can just pick names off of mailboxes, and then all you have to do is say, "Hey, I was over at Joe's place, and he wanted me to stop by and say hello to you." Start the conversation that way.
Yep, and it's a great, the farming market especially, I love. I'll mention this for everyone else that doesn't know. If you're in a rural area or have opportunities in rural areas, Illinois Mutual is very well known for being a great carrier from a disability perspective for farmers, because we have benefits that we can offer them based on herd or acreage size without even having to mess with tax returns. So it's very simple. And farmers love the return of premium rider usually because they can get all their money back, right? Chuck just said they pay a lot of money for health insurance and everything else and don't always love that. But if they know they can get it back, then that's a win-win. But the great thing I love that you mentioned there, Chuck, is just the referral side of the business. Every farmer knows the next one down the road, the next one down the road, the next county over, so it's a good referral business there also.
It is.
Great. Well, looking at, or, just kind of thinking a little bit about what you mentioned as far as your market is and doing a lot in the health insurance side, where do you find that DI fits into that, your focus in the business? I know we talked about life insurance and how that conversation comes up with the farm planning, but disability income, is there a specific space that you have or a specific part of the conversation with your clients that you bring up the DI conversation?
I don't do a lot of huge policies. I do a lot of smaller dollar policies. And what really starts it off is, once you're closing the health sale, one of the questions I ask frequently is, do you want that with waiver of premium on it? And they sort of look at you sort of cockeyed. I've never heard of health insurance with waiver of premium. And you explain the whole concept. Well, if you get sick or hurt, who's going to pay your health insurance premium for you? And if they object even further, I tell them, hey, go get your life insurance. I bet you've already got it on your life insurance. And if you have it on your life insurance, why wouldn't you want it on your health insurance? And now I've got all three pieces laying on the table, and it's very easy to sell them enough disability insurance to cover their health insurance premium. And I almost always put a GIO option on it. So that's got me coming back every 2 years.
Great. That's a wonderful plan.
$400 benefit, and over a period of 10 years, you can get it up to a couple thousand.
Absolutely. And once they see especially if they experience a disability or know someone who does, you're probably going to be their first call, right? To say, I know we talked about this, but do I have enough disability income in force to cover my bills? So it just, so many times it's just the door opener, the conversation starter to get those clients interested, because no one thinks they're going to get disabled, right? We're all bulletproof. Nothing's going to happen to me. But that's a great approach, with just talking to them about covering the basic needs. And with the waiver of premium covering their health insurance premiums, that's one thing, because I know the health premiums can be very expensive for some people, especially depending on their family size. And we've always, and their income. Yes, definitely. And one thing we've always kind of expanded on there too, which could go hand in hand with this, is that MUG concept we have: the mortgage, utilities, and groceries. Make sure that the health premiums are paid, and the mortgage, you can keep a roof over your head if you would get sick or hurt and couldn't go to work or something like that. So it's just start small, but the GIO rider, that's a fantastic rider to add. It's so inexpensive, $1 or so a month to add that to the original policy. But you mentioned that you hit the nail on the head as far as being able to go back to that client 5 times in the future without having to prove any medical insurability. But you get to do a review with them every 2 years, and they can increase those benefits up to 5 times to make sure they have the coverage they need. But I'm sure, it opens up the door for other opportunities every 2 years in that review, right? Do they have enough life insurance? Do they need, what else can you help them with? So
one thing I think about their market is it's constantly changing. And as it changes, it opens up other needs too. For instance, we're going through a period right now where things like fertilizer has just gone through the roof. And I'm picking up some extra sales based on the cost of fertilizer. That's increased by 2 or 3 times over the last year and a half. So that's
wow. That's interesting. I didn't think about it from that side either, just how the cost of other goods, are going up, and so how that can help with your other insurance sales also. And as far as one of the questions I was going to ask you was about the starter plan, and you hit that perfectly as far as a smaller benefit amount, having the GIO rider on there. Do you typically find, as far as elimination or benefit periods, that you're selling something more than the other?
Usually 2 or 5 year benefit periods with 30-day elimination periods. Most farmers have assets coming out the wazoo, so they're not, if they are going to be laid up to age 65, they're going to start selling assets. If they're never going back to work, they've got real estate, they've got machinery and equipment. Most of the clients that I work with have net worths of anywhere from $500,000 up to as high as 15 or 16 million, but they never have more than $30,000 a year in income.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense in that space. So
they're not real concerned with long-term disability. If they get disabled and know they're not going back to work, then they've got other plans in place to take care of that. What they're concerned with is breaking a leg or having something where they're going to be out for 6 months. They want to be able to get their health insurance paid and maybe pay for somebody else to do what they normally do. I've got I've got two people out on claim right now. I've got a lady that owns a 35,000 chicken farm. She's got 35,000 head of chicken, and she had her right knee replaced in July, and she's having her left knee replaced in October. So she's probably off work from July till January. So she's going through the claim process now. And then I have another 285 cow dairy farmer that just had bypass surgery in August. So we're in the process of getting his claim started here now.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad that you had taken care of their disability income needs previously, so they're going to be covered now. Because that's something you definitely don't want to wait until it's too late. Because it's, at that point when we already have a pending surgery, we can't get disability income coverage. So do you, whether that just because we're talking so much about the farming market, and I know that's where you spend a lot of your time, do you ever have a conversation with the farm laborers about, or the owner of the farm about getting disability income on those, the farm hands to kind of help make sure that if there'd be a paycheck?
Some of the farm hands will do it on their own, but the farmers usually aren't interested in, because they rarely provide benefits other than free housing and free food. They don't do health insurance for their employees, or very few of them do. I run into some occasionally, but most of them aren't providing other benefits. Now, I have here over the last couple of years, I've got a couple of group disability cases and that actually started with clients of mine that were sole proprietors in other lines of work that have expanded and have employees now. And I've got 3 or 4 people on a group disability through a group of physical therapists. The lady that owns the company was an individual client of mine going back 30 years. And she expanded her business and has 8 or 10 girls working for her now in the field of physical therapy, and 4 of them have signed up for group disability. It's a voluntary plan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, as you mentioned at the very beginning, the referral side of the business, it just keeps building, right? Or keeps giving, where you can expand that, to different clientele, to different product lines, and so on. Do you have any other agents that you work with as far as like a center of influence that refer the disability income business to you, or that you work back and forth with for referrals on the health insurance, especially because I know a lot of agents got out of health insurance and open enrollment. Do you find that you get any referrals for that business?
My existing block of business is where I get most of my referrals from. I don't use centers of influence much. I do appearances, more or less. I try to go to where people are that I want to work with, and here in Ohio, at least, one of those options are county fairs. I usually shell out a little bit of money to sponsor something at various county fairs. It gets my name out there. Secondly, people know who I am too, mainly because I'm involved in some of those community organizations like that.
That's a great idea. And we've had some success with other agents who have been involved with Chamber of Commerce, so working with other small businesses in the Chamber of Commerce helps get your name out there. And again, great referral source for individuals, businesses, group coverage, and so on.
Here just recently, and I haven't really started to expand on this yet, but one of the avenues that especially groups have now to avoid the Affordable Care Act is they can go through these what they call MEWA plans, multiple employer welfare associations. It's like the Chamber of Commerce endorses plans. Here in Ohio, we have COSI, which is the Council of Smaller Enterprises. They band businesses together and are able to buy insurance. And I've had maybe 4 or 5 groups that have gone with the chamber plan, so it's getting my name in front of the chamber. And I did get a referral a couple of weeks ago from the Newton Falls Chamber of Commerce here in Ohio. I just made contact with them last week and have an appointment coming up next week with a prospect from there. So that, again, that emanated from health insurance by using these Chamber of Commerce health insurance plans, which, the Chamber endorses Blue Cross Blue Shield here in Ohio. COSI endorses Medical Mutual. So you've got various plans that you can use, and it's almost like health insurance used to be. It's not a guaranteed issue. It's medically underwritten, but the rates are anywhere from as low as 10% to 30% under what the Affordable Care Act rates are, which frees up money then that you can do other stuff like disability and life insurance.
That's great. And that's another good point there, as far as if you're able to help save them some premium dollars, that is a much better or different conversation, right? To help lead into the DI and the life conversation.
That's you feel like the Affordable Care Act, though, is if you can show people how, based on their income, see, a lot of times these people that have lots of assets and no income think that they're not going to qualify for advanced premium tax credits, or as we like to call them, subsidies in the Affordable Care Act world. But if they've only got 25 or 30,000 in adjusted gross income, it doesn't matter what their net worth is. The subsidies are based on income only. So you can take somebody that's paying $1,000 a month in health insurance and they get a subsidy to cover $900 of that. Now they're only paying $100 for health insurance. You just freed up a boatload of money.
Yes, made them very happy customers.
Oh, yeah. And they can afford to buy the disability and the life insurance that they couldn't buy before.
Absolutely. That's a great plan. And do you find usually once you bring up the DI conversation, do you have many objections from your clients about, I'm not going to need this, or, about disability income in general? Or once you talk through them what this looks like and talk about kind of that waiver of premium, do you find you get them to commit at that point in time, or what does your process usually look like?
Been on claim, I always seek their permission to use them as an example. And many of them will say, you can use my name because everybody around here knows me. So I carry a satchel full of existing cases or previous cases where people have filed claim. And the one question I always ask anybody that's self-employed, I don't care if they're a farmer, or a truck driver, construction worker, whatever, if you can look me in the eye and tell me that you never ever work when you're tired and or sleepy, then I'll tell you that you don't need disability insurance. But otherwise, I mean, I've had claims over the year. I got a guy on a long-term care claim that fell in a silo and was without air for 15 minutes, and now he's got permanent brain damage.
Oh, my goodness.
I had a guy one time was framing a set of steps and left a nail gun lay on one of the steps, and he raised up and hit his head on the frame, and the nail gun went off and shot a 10-penny nail into the back of his head. And 6 weeks later, learning how to walk and talk again. So that question, if you can tell me that you never ever work when you're sleepy and or tired, then I'll tell you you don't need disability insurance. Now, I frame the whole thing around, accidents and things like that, but my own personal statistics over the years, I've had more claims on illnesses than I have injuries and that sort of thing.
That's amazing.
Right now, one's a cardiac case and the other one's knee replacement, which is, arthritis. It didn't have anything to do with an injury.
Yep. And it's amazing that you say that, because with Illinois Mutual, we've always been known as the blue collar or more middle market carrier. So we work with all the clients that you're talking about, the small business owners, the hands-on manual labor. And, we do see a little bit more cases that are more accident prone versus illness prone. But the industry it's a 10% accident is the common claim, 90% is illness. So ours probably varies throughout the year and just depends on the clientele. But you're right, it doesn't have to be just the accidents. That's what we all think of. The illnesses are there all day, every day too, and more, especially today. So it's helping those clients see the need and the opportunity and just making sure they're protected for both. And that's the beauty of this plan.
It's easier to sell accidents than it is illness. Nobody thinks they're going to have a heart attack, but nobody can control what somebody else is going to do in an automobile.
Yeah.
You have no control over that. So it's easier to sell the accident than it is to sell the illnesses. Everybody thinks they're the picture of health and they're never going to get sick. But accidents
Exactly.
under control of it.
We all know accidents happen, right? And you know
Yeah.
someone that has happened to, or someone who, you know, falls off a ladder cleaning out the gutters, whatever that might be. So that's what I do love, is that this product doesn't, you know, you don't have to choose one or the other. It covers you for both, on and off the job. And so in addition to helping, you know, can help cover the health insurance premiums, it's a great compliment to those that have work comp too, you know, to make sure that they are going to have the benefits they need to cover their bills at home.
Yeah.
Great. So just trying to think here through some of the other things. Do you have a specific fact finder you use to help identify prospects, or is it really just kind of every client that you talk to who's working, relies on their paycheck, isn't currently disabled, and is under, you know, age 60, that you're working with them or bringing up the DI conversation?
With any self-employed person, they don't like things real formal. They don't like if I sit at the table with a pad and take a note. So a lot of times I just ad hoc and ask questions off the top of my head. And if they say something that I want to write a note down for, I just pull a piece of paper out of my pocket and scribble it down. But I usually start with, you know, how much are you paying for health insurance? That needs to be covered. And what's it going to cost to hire somebody to replace you? Because most of them, like, especially if you're self-employed or you own your own business, you're still going to have income coming in. It's just going to be a little reduced because you're paying somebody else to do the portion that you would normally. So if you've got insurance to cover that, then you're going to still make the same amount of income. I mean, using farmers as an example, if he's milking 285 head of cattle, those 285 head of cattle are still going to be milked every day, whether he's doing it or not. He's just increasing his cost because he's paying somebody else to do it now. So the amount of money that those cows generate is going to be the same. His costs are the only thing that went up. So if you can cover that cost with insurance. So I ask him, you know, how many hours are you going to have to replace them? What are you going to have to pay somebody to do it? Let's start with that. Because at the end of the day, income is going to be the same, and it doesn't matter if you own a construction company, if you own a dairy farm, if you own a trucking company. It doesn't matter. The income, the revenue is still going to be the same. You're just increasing your cost because you got to find somebody to do your job.
Yep, that's a great way to present it. Well, are there any other, well, we'll open it up here for Q&A in just a few minutes. I did forget to tell everyone at the beginning of the call, if you have some questions, feel free to use the questions feature through GoToWebinar. You can type those questions in, and then we're going to ask them here in just a minute for Chuck, so we can all, you know, hear that and learn from each other. But any other tips or tricks that you've experienced over the years, Chuck, or learned in your practice that you'd like to share with other agents that help with bringing up the DI conversation or closing the DI sale?
Well, once you start the conversation, it's pretty easy to close a sale. You just settle on the amount that they're going to need, and then you determine how long they can go without having that income replaced. I do a few 90-day elimination periods, but most of them are 30 days, and I could probably count on my fingers the number of benefits to age 65 I've done. I had one on myself. I had one on my wife. That was about it. Most of them are 5 years or 2 years. And actually, I just had a situation here a couple weeks ago. I have a brother who lives in South Carolina, and he's actually in the P&C business. But he called me and had a client of his that was interested in disability insurance, and I got him licensed with you guys here just recently, and he sold a case in South Carolina.
That's wonderful. And that's P&C space is a great market.
I don't do it anymore, but early in my career, I was very active in NAIFA. In fact, I was on the board and chaired a committee with NAIFA, and I got a lot of referrals from P&C guys in NAIFA I'm going back like 20 years ago. I've become sort of I'm not sure what they call it, a legacy or something, because I'm over now, but I'm not as active in NAIFA as I used to be. But I went through about a 10 or 15 year period of time where I was getting a lot of referrals from NAIFA too.
That's a very good thought.
NAIFA is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, and if you're not a member, I would encourage you to be a member, because that's the group that looks out for us in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
There's my NAIFA. Sorry about that.
No, that's good. I love NAIFA. We're a big supporter of NAIFA as well. And like you just said, our last month, our best practices forum was about centers of influence. And what Doug Schellenberger had talked about was how he partners with other agents, P&C agents. And that we always hear that P&C agents, because it's such a reactive business, it can be very time consuming, and there's not always the time of the day to bring up the DI conversation and go through the process there. But there's so much potential and need with those clients that they're working with for disability income. So Doug partners with other P&C agents to get the referrals for DI, and then he works with the agent and the client, depending on how they want that relationship to be, to do the DI for them. So, NAIFA could be a great way to open the door for more opportunities for disability income just by partnering with other agents, whether it's P&C or life or health or whoever that might be. So, very good point there. And then
there are a lot of life and health agents out there that don't really understand disability. And I've actually seen situations where clients bring it up first with some of these people that really don't understand it, and they don't want to get into it. And I've got a few people have called me about that too over the years too.
Right. It's good to be known as an expert for something, right?
I'm an expert. Like I've got a lot of experience.
Well, we have a couple questions here. Mark Russell had mentioned that he lives in a semi-rural area just northeast of Nashville, and there are several agricultural businesses in the area that he wants to approach about DI. He is aware of our trifold pamphlet we have that targets farmers with our farmer guidelines. Do you think there would be any benefit to putting those flyers in agricultural businesses such as like the Tractor Supply, the co-op, to be beneficial that could get his name out there? Or do you have any other recommendations that what he could do to kind of become the DI person?
Flyers, if you've got your name and contact information in there, you'll get a few people will pick those up. I found over the years a more effective way with those, though, is if you mail them with your business card, and then maybe a week later, just send them a handwritten note. Hey, I sent this flyer to you. Did you get it? And then maybe a week after that, give them a call. So now they've seen your name, or they've seen your name twice, and now you're giving them a call. And a lot of times they'll react to that. And if you've got another name that you can use, one of their neighbors or somebody else, that cuts a lot of ice too.
That's a great point, and I'm glad that you mentioned that as far as the mailing something out and then following up with a phone call. We actually have an agent in Minnesota area, or Minneapolis area, that he works with a lot of farmers, and primarily their interest is life insurance first. And one thing that he did was he went to all the clients that he wrote life insurance for the past 6 months. He did a simple letter that was saying, hey, we took care of your life insurance, but we didn't take care of or talk about your income protection. Here's a basic quote, just very similar to how you do your plan design. He mailed them the letter with that sample quote and said, I'm going to call you to follow up in a few weeks. In the next 6 months, he sold 25 DI applications for $25,000 in annual premium combined. And it's the best program he's ever done with getting, having disability success or sales success in general. So we did kind of take that and bottle it into a marketing kit. It's a cross-sell life to DI kit. It's on our resource library on the agent forum, or you can reach out to the sales team and we'll be happy to send that to you. But Chuck, that is I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a great way to target those prospects to help get your name in front of them, but also have some accountability on your side. It's very easy to, put a pamphlet somewhere or mail something out, but if we don't follow up with that phone call, you're really not going to get anywhere. So I think that was a great suggestion there, to follow up with a phone call and try to make that connection. And Mark, hopefully that helps.
When you're mailing those pamphlets out like that too, I've found I've had more success when you put it in the envelope. If you hand address the envelope, don't use a mailing sticker or something like that, because 9 times out of 10, that's going to wind up in the garbage without being opened. People get so much junk mail anymore. You got to find handwrite the address, and maybe even put a little handwritten note on the flyer when you send it out. They're going to notice that. And then when you send just a plain handwritten note on a little 5x7 piece of paper in an envelope, and you handwrite it, put it in an envelope with handwritten address, send it out, and then call them a week after that, they're going to start to feel like you care. You're not just somebody that's sending out 1,000 pieces of mail.
Absolutely, that personal touch.
Individualizing it to them. Takes a little more time, and you're not going to send out 500 pieces of mail by doing that. But if you do 4 or 5 a week, and then follow up with the phone calls, it's bound to work at some point. You might go a couple weeks without getting one, but eventually you're going to get one, and then it'll build from there.
Yep, definitely. So one question that we had here is, how does the disability income work with the Social Security disability benefit? And I can go ahead and address that. Basically, our disability income policy covers you on or off the job, accident or sickness, 24-hour coverage, and our base benefits will pay in addition to whatever you receive from work comp or Social Security disability. So it's not if you use just the base benefits, they're not going to coordinate or offset or reduce if they have other income from other sources like workers' comp or Social Security disability. But keep in mind, it does take usually 2 years or longer to qualify for Social Security disability benefits. So a lot of times if we're selling that 2-year benefit period, which has been very popular over the years, that 2-year plan, it's going to help at least get them to the point where they can start receiving Social Security disability benefits, and they haven't had to wait, a super long time without having any paycheck. Because I don't know about you, but I couldn't make it 2 years without a paycheck if I didn't have a disability income policy. And that's the case for a lot of our clients too. So that's kind of always been our thought process there. So hopefully that helps. And then a couple other questions for you, Chuck, is what % of your business is disability income insurance?
Probably about 25%.
25, okay. And then what % do you sell? And I forgot to really ask this, we didn't talk about it much, but how much do you sell of that return of premium rider?
Not as much as I probably should. That adds an additional cost, and I've struggled with finding ways to explain that to them. Most of the time, the people that I'm working with have sufficient assets. They're not really, they look at it almost like car insurance. They hope they never have to use it, but it's nice to have if they do. I've sold maybe over the years, maybe a dozen and a half, but not a whole lot of that. The guaranteed insurability rider is on everything, and the retro injury rider I put on everything too.
That's great. And return of premium is not for everyone, for sure, but it is on 46% of our policies, just to help answer that question, Gerald. So it is popular for us, but again, for some agents, it's, or even some clients.
It depends on your market too.
Yes.
If you're a white collar market or people that are W-2 employees, it's probably going to be a little more important than it is to somebody that has a $10 million asset base.
That makes perfect sense there. So, and a couple other questions we had. Let's see here. Do we have any good social media posts or graphics specific to DI? Thomas, I see you had asked that question, and thank you also for the the reference for the cold. It's ongoing, and gotta love Central Illinois allergies right now. But for good social media posts, if you go to the resource library or reach out to the sales support team, we'll be more than happy to provide you those different pieces that we have. You can follow Illinois Mutual on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and see the things that we post there as well to use those. But we do have some great pieces on our resource library that you could utilize as also. And Mark Russell had mentioned, how do I get the names and addresses of the farmers, in the area if he doesn't know them specifically? Chuck, did you have any tips on that for things that you've done over the years with getting those names and addresses?
If I'm going to see Joe Smith, I'll stop on either side of him and write the names off the mailboxes. Or you can write, if they don't have a name on the mailbox, you can get the mailbox number and the road that you're on. And you can Google that and it'll tell you who lives there. And then when you go to see Joe Smith, say, hey, when I'm done here, I'm going to go see Pete Martin next door. You want me to tell him anything for you? And 9 times out of 10, it's something, yeah, tell him to bring my shovel back or I'm going to come over and beat him with it. So then you go to see Pete Martin, who you've never met before. Oh, by the way, I was just over at Joe Smith's and he said he wants a shovel back or he's going to come beat you with it. Now Pete Martin feels like he knows you because you know Joe Smith and you've had private conversations with him. So yeah, if you can get the mailbox number or the street number or whatever it is, you can Google that and find out who lives there, and then you can feed that to your existing client or whoever you're going to see and get them to refer you without even referring you. I never say, hey, give me a referral. I just say, hey, I'm going to see Pete Martin after I leave here. You want me to tell him anything? Yeah, my wife made him a blueberry pie last night. Tell him come get
it. That's always nice. And again, just that personal connection. And some of those markets, especially the rural market, I like that goes a long way. One more question we had is, does DI pay even if you have workers' comp or state disability? So DI will pay in addition to workers' comp or Social Security disability. So yes, if they are receiving workers' comp benefits, the base policy of a DI our DI plan will pay in addition to those work comp benefits. And now, as far as state disability, that is something where it's an existing disability policy that they already have when they're applying for Illinois Mutual disability income. So we have to coordinate those benefits. They do offset. So meaning that we don't want the client to be overinsured. They can't have 60% replacement of their income for a state disability policy and then get an extra 60% with us because they'd be overinsured. Those both policies would pay and there'd be no reason for them to go back to work, right? So if someone has state disability, we do have to know that at the beginning of the underwriting process, or if you're calling in for a quote to the team, you'll want to share that information with the team, and then we can help do a supplemental policy to coordinate the benefits to make sure that they'll have between a 60 to 80% replacement of income and they won't be overinsured. So hopefully that helps there, Saeed, answer that question. All right, I don't see that we have any other questions, so we'll stay on for a few more minutes to see if there's any others from anyone else. Feel free to ask those. But I do want to just take a minute to thank everyone so much for attending today. I hope you found the presentation helpful. I want to thank you, Chuck, so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know right now with it being open enrollment period, it is very hectic. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to talk about how you found success with disability income, especially in your rural area, to bring up the conversation with your clients. But anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up today?
Well, if you do this long enough, you're going to have success stories. And by that, I mean, you're going to have people that have filed claims and had situations. You'll build a library of stories that you can tell without using people's names. And sometimes I'll even give you permission to use their names. And you have a few success stories, and that'll sell itself. I mean, one of the ones that I use frequently, and I have this guy's permission to use his name, however, I usually don't. But I had a guy a few years ago, him and his brother were partners in a large dairy operation. He was using the chainsaw on a tree that was near a rock pile, and the chainsaw hit a knot in a tree, bounced back, hit a rock, and it mangled his leg so bad that they had to amputate it just above the knee. And so he
Oh,
was claimed for like maybe 6 months, and it got to a point where he couldn't stay away from the farm any longer. And he come up with the idea that he could get around the farm on a golf cart, and he just needed a ramp built up onto his porch so he could get into the house. And and he had a benefit period, I think it was a 10-year benefit period, but he called Illinois Mutual and negotiated a deal with him. Rather than collect benefits for 10 years, he said, if you buy me a golf cart and build a ramp up onto my front porch, I'll go back to work tomorrow. And they did.
that's part of
They
our.
bought him a golf cart and they built a ramp up onto his front porch, and he went back to work on one leg.
Oh, that's yep. We
I
have
mean,
that
there are
retraining, and
too many companies that are that easy to get along
we love to hear that experience. You
with.
know,
That
the
story all the time. And, if you get some people that have filed claims, you'll build up a library of stories that you can use, and it'll sell itself.
that's so true. And even just asking if anyone's had an experience, whether it be with them or someone they know, I feel like that can sell itself. And like I know you said you're not really the expert, just have had experience in the industry, but I feel like what we hear a lot is once you can get a couple of those cases sold under your belt, you get more comfortable with the process, you're more confident in the product, what you're talking about, you understand the application process, the underwriting process, the delivery, and then from that claim side of it too. So it truly is just getting started, right? And just asking the question. And then you have a team of experts. Well, we like to say we're experts sometimes in the home office, that we can help you with the quotes, the software, the applications, whatever it is. You have a back office support to help you every step of the way. But get a couple of cases under your belt, and you will be more confident.
Years is you can talk to the sales team. You can also talk to the underwriters. You can also talk to the claims analysts. They're just a phone call away.
That's the beauty, is you have direct access, and you will reach a live person, at Illinois Mutual. So we appreciate your long-term partnership with us, Chuck, and have had some great feedback so far with some of the attendees that they've really enjoyed your presentation today and the discussion. So thank you again for taking the time to do this. But
my pleasure.
Yeah, great. Well, at this point in time, I don't see any other questions. We can go ahead and wrap up here, but we'll let you get back to your day and protecting all the hardworking clients there in rural Ohio. Okay.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much.